Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2023 Sanderson's Farm Championship, also known as the Chicken Open. This is going to be my preview show. I'm going to give you my picks, going to go over my bets, all the custom models and analysis that you guys have grown to love. First and foremost, thank you for stopping by. Got a lot to catch up on the golf side. A lot of things have transpired the last couple weeks, and so we'll cover that. Of course, we'll go over all the things that we need to look at for the Sanderson Farms to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward to get some really good bets in and hopefully win some cash on DFS. With that said, let's go talk some golf. Okay, so it's been a bit since the Fortinet Championship. A lot of it I've almost forgotten, but it was a pretty crazy tournament. Some things that I didn't see. I didn't see Danny Willett almost winning this tournament. You had Benoit Anne, who kind of, has done well in the Corn Ferry, made his way back. Who was always a really good ball striker, usually not that great of a putter, but also challenged. And what you see there was Danny Willett three putting from about 3 or 4 feet, if I remember correctly. And of course, Max Homa, back-to-back champions, which he's done that also at the Wells Fargo, different course, but pretty crazy. I was watching a bit of football, as probably you were, kind of jumping back and forth, but when, kind of was expecting that no way Danny Willett was not going to win that thing. But of course, Max Homa chips in. I believe it was at 17 for birdie, which got them both tied at 16. And then they go to 18, or at 16 under. Then they go to 18. And I think Danny Willett just needed to make a par to win, and actually 3 putts, and Max Homa wins again. So pretty crazy tournament. What I remember also was that I was heavily on the Bombers with some good putting on POA, and that somewhat worked out. I also stated that there's going to be some guys that do it with a putter, hence kind of Danny Willett. Him and Taylor Montgomery, who ended up in third, which was one of my picks, also one of my bets. Those guys sprayed it around quite a bit, but they were just ridiculous with the putter, and there's no way to predict that. There's no way. That's always the variable that we can never understand it. Who's going to go gain 10, 11 strokes with a putter? So anyways, it wasn't bad. It wasn't, my Luke Lisk call. I was really excited, hoping that Luke Lisk, and he missed a cut and just could not make any putts. Wyndham Clark did pretty well, but overall, from a DFS perspective, I had an entry, I think in the single entry 200 that actually did pretty well. I think I like top 30 or something like that. But the rest of it was, and I didn't have a ton in it. And, the bet side didn't work out because, again, I was on the guys that like the Pendriths and Luke Lists and Clarks and all that didn't happen. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, and here's some of the stroke gain data. Actually, from that event, just real quick, we can go through it. You see Max was steady everywhere. That's typically what you look for, but you can see total strokes gain. Actually, Danny Willett beat him. That's very rare that ever happens. You can see at 6,600 also, I was, pulling for a long shot. That would have definitely been a long shot. I don't know what his odds were, but I have to guess 150 to 200 to 1 going into this. But you can see he gained almost 7 strokes with a putter, and I think it would have been even higher if you looked at the first 3 days. There's my Taylor Montgomery. I told you that I think shot, at 64? 8 under or something like that crazy. You needed him in Showdown finale, which I actually did, but still didn't really do anything too amazing in Showdown on Sunday. But he gained 10.5 strokes with a putter, which is, again, like I said, you can't predict that. So a bit all over the board. I mean, like I said, Justin Lauer, I think he led, first day shooting like 7 under. So if somehow you had him for a first round leader, you had Benoit Anne, as I already talked about. I'm actually really excited for him at this tournament. You had the Canadian Nick Taylor, who, I think there is definitely some correlation we need to tie, which I did, to Pebble Beach. Of course, Nick Taylor won there in the past. You had Ricky Fowler, who made a cut and actually, I think, ended up in 5th or 6th overall in the standings. Well, right here, 6th. You had Sahith again show up, Brennan Todd, back to that kind of plotters and good putters. And then I told you guys Harris English would be a pretty good pick. I think his form, for the price he was at his odds, I think are like 50 to 1 from a betting side. So they're, getting hip that Harris English is starting to get back to some form. And then, of course, we had the President's Cup, which, we kind of all saw how this was going. I mentioned that they pulled the betting from this completely a while ago, probably a month before this event even kicked off. I think they were given negative 300 odds at one time. So, if you put a chunk of cash down, you could have made some money on taking, the U.S. But as once all that Live Tour stuff came out, they yanked that from the market. And I'm guessing, I would love to hear from any of you guys that had money on that, on, betting on U.S. versus international, if they gave you back your money and just canceled the bet. That's what I would guess happened. But anyways, Of course, the President's team, it was, it could have been over on Saturday without even playing singles, but they did rally. You had our buddy here, Tom Kim, who won the Wyndham with that crazy Sunday finish, shooting a 61. He was kind of the spark plug for those guys, made a couple big eagle putts, and you see he was pretty psyched. You got Trevor Elliman pretty psyched. And then if you're interested, which I thought it was kind of interesting, how these guys fared out, I actually put 3 teams together in whatever that was for they had for DFS with that kind of captain showdown, but it was over the 4 days. And funny enough, Jordan Spieth led in points from our side. He was also a captain's pick. Next guy was Max Homa. And it looked like, you had to kind of stack the Cantlay Schauffele together, but those guys kind of fell back a little bit going towards the end from a, point perspective. And then, of course, Siwoo Kim actually led, funny enough, the international team, which was a captain's pick. I already mentioned Tom Kim. My buddy Sebastian Munoz also did very well for the team. So, all in all, I mean, I watched a little bit of it. Again, football came on Sunday. I knew no matter what, that thing was over, even though they made it, I don't even know if you could say they made it interesting or not. But so it was all right. I've never been a big President Cup guy. Just, maybe if it would have been nice if they would have had the team of Answer and Neiman and Cam Smith, and I probably would have watched even more on the weekend. Okay, let's get back and now talk about the Chicken Open. All right, so we are heading over to Jackson, Mississippi, and they will be playing the Country Club of Jackson. They've been playing this event here since 2014, and it's a John Fott design back in 2008, I guess, for a redesign. It opened in 1914. Again, not really any information that we really care about, but it is a par 72. Playing in over at 7,461 yards, so it is a big boy course. And of course, when you see that par 72, we do have 4 par 5s. You got Bermuda fairways, you got Bermuda rough with the Zoysia mix. I did check; it is still at 2.5 or 2 inches. On a side note, they actually had a ton of rain. While I'm thinking of during August, over 10.5 inches there. And I think I saw they had the course shut down for a couple weeks, so they weren't able to even get mowers on it for a while. But they should have it all under control by now. And you do have those champion Bermuda greens here. Right now, the player field that I saw is at 144, which will be cut down to T65 ties. But I believe they have 4 spots maybe for Monday qualifiers, so they can get that up to about 148. And historical cut line is about even to 2 under here. And this is a course that you got to go pretty low. So Sam Burns, of course, won here last year, 22 under. And I just noted Cam Young was runner-up at 21 under. I put that there because what you're going to see here is, guys that can strike the ball off the tee pretty long have done pretty well here. From a Sergio Garcia, you got Cameron Champ, you got Sebastian Munoz. But really what really stands out here is really good ball strikers. Then you pair up what Burns can do with the putter. And if you got to watch what he did at the President's Cup, he is coming in pretty good form. The driver still at times was getting a little wayward, but I mean, he carried Scheffler, who I don't know if he got a point. And then, of course, with Billy Horschel as his partner on Saturday, he also carried Billy Ho. I don't know how much Billy Ho even contributed. So Burns is coming in great form, and what we've been seeing is a lot of back-to-back, repeats. So you had Max Homa, who did it. I mean, technically, he did the Fortinet and then Wells Fargo, but it's a different course. You had Rory, but again, the RBC Heritage Canadian Open, 2 or 3 year gap there. So, but we have seen some repeats. And so, I typically don't bet odds that are under 20 to 1 in golf, but out of this field, Sam Burns is elite. Now, he's got to come out and still play. So we'll see. Who knows? He's going to come and try to, I'd be shocked to be pulled out because he is, returning champion. But all those guys that played in the President's Cup, you're not going to see too many of them in this event. And it is a pretty weak field, which we could expect. All right, we've got some of the larger greens on the PGA Tour at 6,200 square feet. And they're, pretty subtle breaks. That's what I remember. It's kind of like the Donald Ross courses where you're not going to get a ton of undulation on the greens or slope, but there's a slight where they cut the holes. There's just at the very end, there's going to get that slight break. 56 sand bunkers. You've got 7 water hazards, but only 5 actually come into play. I've got a little map. We'll take a quick look at that. And what I have noted here is lightning fast on the stemp meter. So, but that's going to depend on also what the weather's doing. If it is still wet, that should help these guys out. And it is an older course, kind of back and forth. It's narrow. It's tree lined. You got the bunkers well placed as usual, and the water hazards are around the greens. I already talked about the rain. Pass notes: you need the best ball strikers in the field that can hopefully just pop with a putter. Hence, like at the time of Cam Champ, I would look at Munoz that falls under there. Sergio Garcia is probably the best example. So if you think of like a Keegan Bradley is a really good fit, I think, for this track, to his game or what he does. And I already mentioned, fast, simple greens can make crappy putters better because we've just seen it at this event quite a few times. So I think that's enough on the course breakdown. Let's take a quick look at this track. So actually, I think this is 17th off the tee box that you notice here, a little dogleg left, which is represented right here. So you got a little bit of water. It follows the left. I don't know. Well, I guess it does go all the way up, but kind of, if you get that far left, you probably deserve to have some troubles. You'll notice too that the water is placed right in front of the green. So is that 11? You got 4 with water. This looks like a par 3-7. Nothing really to really worry about there. And then it looks like number 2, you got some water there. So that's about it. Like I said, other than that, you need guys that can scramble a little bit. You can see there's some trees here or there if you get off the beaten path. But the rough shouldn't be penal. Hopefully they got the mowers on it. And the guys should shoot somewhere, 20 under or better if the weather sits. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the scorecard here. It is a gentle handshake and probably the best opportunity they have to hit that consecutive birdie bonus. It doesn't matter if you take guys that go off the back or you take guys off the front. In theory, if you play the game of golf, typically my game gets a little better the more I swing in a round. So, there's that. But honestly, like I said, I mean, you've got 5 holes in a row that they could, somewhere string some birdies together. You got these 2 par 5s, pretty gettable. You also have a drivable par 4 right here, number 15 at 330. So there's an eagle opportunity, should be there. What's the best eagle chance? It's actually saying 11, this shorter par 5. And it kind of ends with a little bit of a tougher, definitely 18 and 16. So, that kind of, things could maybe change on the last few holes. But like I said, all in all, I checked the yardages against this recent scorecard, and everything is spot on, so no need to worry about that. But yeah, I wouldn't really worry about consecutive bonus now. It's just your theory of, do you want your guys, maybe if you get the guys at the early tee times going off the front, would probably be the best. So wind would be the lowest, the greens will be fresh, and they should go ahead and hopefully string some birdies together for you right off the bat. All right, so this is the point where we're going to dive into the custom stat model. I also used to call it how do you win this thing, but honestly, I kind of like this better because this is how I build my model, is off these things. And this is, I think, my 3rd year doing the for the Chicken Open. So this has gotten refined and refined. Number 1, ball strikers. It just shows up over and over and over. So the Grios, the Glovers, the Munozes, like those guys are live here if they could just make some putts. And approach as always is up there. Funny enough, putting, it does show up. So you got the guys like a Peter Malnati, who is not a good ball striker, doesn't hit very far off tee, but this guy, when he comes here, just seems to putt lights out, and he's had a couple high up finishes. I actually have a small bet on him. Could be, I kind of always keep an eye on him here. You want guys, so this could be off the tee or driving distance with fairways. It's actually the same thing. The only difference is when you plug it in this way, you can manipulate, the percent weighting of, do you want a little more distance, where fairways, where I look at off the tee, they kind of equal out 50-50, where you could kind of do a 60-40, 70-30 split of, I'll lean more with distance because here, if you get a little wayward, it's not hugely, penal. I already mentioned a scrambling. Whenever you get in these courses, I have tree lined. You're going to want guys with scrambling. And then the prox to the pins, pretty similar to last year. The 2 that stand out is 100 to 125, coming in at 17%, and 125 to 150 at 20%. And again, if you're new for some reason to the golf world and all this verbiage that I'm spewing, proximity to the pin, that means when you're hitting your approach shot to the green, from those distances, how close do you get it to the pin to give yourself a birdie opportunity, or eagle, whatever it is. I already mentioned there's 3 very gettable par 5s that come in between 550 and 600 yards. 3 of those. I actually removed this from the model, so I should be out the par 4s. There's nothing challenging about 6 par 4s at 400 yards, so I'm not worried about that. I did leave in these par 3s because I do see that is typically long par 3s can be a defense to the course. So I kept that in the model. Then you got to go low here. You got a birdie. So I plugged that into the overall larger model. And then if you want to look at some past winners and how they've done here, I already kind of mentioned these guys, but we can look at the information I also have last year just so we can see. So, kind of going back the camera champ days, you can see Sam Burns already was kind of nipping here. Yeah, Carlos Ortiz, which he had a win at I believe it was at the Golf Club of Houston for the Houston Open, which I think is a good comparable course. I'm just trying to remember in my head if that was Memorial Park, if it already switched over, but I think that was at the Golf Club of Houston, but neither here or there. You kind of look, guys could, we're gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, and Cameron Champ, amazing enough, just went nuts, gaining 9 strokes with the putter here, which, if you've been watching Cameron Champ, he's typically a really bad putter, but when that pops, typically he will win a tournament. You got Munoz, who kind of same thing, had a really good showing with the putter, but did really well ball striking. And you can see that the one thing that kind of shows up, except for this year here, these guys did it all ball striking, and of course the putter was pretty solid, except for Sam Burns, who, funny enough, which this could be a reason why not to play or bet Sam Burns. When I show it, he's lost strokes here both times he's done well. The one time he won, and the time that he ended up in third. And then Sergio Garcia, where he just was amazing ball striking. And just for Garcia, same thing with Cameron Champ. If he gains a couple strokes of the putter, he's very live to win. And then I mentioned Peter Malnati, who just went nuts with the putter here, but didn't do anything off the tee, as in he doesn't gain distance. But if you hit fairways here, it's still good. You got JT Poston, of course, who won this past year at the John Deere. Gained a ton with the putter, not too bad with the irons, but nothing really off the tee. And then there's my guy Keegan, who I believe led this tournament all the way to Saturday, and then I think kind of lost it on Sunday, if I remember right. And you got to also remember, if memory serves me right, Keegan Bradley at Valspar. So I probably should plug that in, and I did not. I will plug that in for my picks before we go into that on the comparable courses. I just want to see, because I just kind of popped in my brain that Valspar should be a good comp for this. I don't think I have it in there. All right, and then I'll kind of dive deeper into this, to specifically last year's stroke gain on the top guys that finished first through eighth. Of course, I think this was his kind of breakout PGA Tour event where he had a good chance of winning. Kind of fits that model. Henrik Norlander, perfect example of usually a really good ball striker, but very bad putter. Then you had this like anomaly out of nowhere. So if somehow you played Nick Watney at probably bare min price on DFS, he would have been the game changer who ended up in second and gained almost 12 strokes with the putter. And then there's Burns, as I mentioned. Again, great ball striking, but lost 2 strokes with the putter, but still won. Then you had Cameron Young, also one of his first tournaments. I was actually shocked. Totally forgot that Cameron Young played in this event, but was runner-up and just ball striked and also gained real nice. But as far as I know, Cam Young will not be at the Chicken Open this year. All right, so as I mentioned, I created a custom stat model, and kind of the organization of this, I noticed the flow is a little different, but still fine. We already kind of went over the stroke gain stuff I'll be putting in, but I'll give it real fast again. So quarter of the model is going to be weighted on ball striking. And if you're also, again, new to that and don't understand what that means, that's combining off the tee with your approach shots. You've also got the approach, so kind of, putting more weight on that. You've got driving distance with fairways gain. So instead of off the tee, I kind of put more weight, because you could have put 15 and it would have kind of split it right in half. So we got more weight on the distance, less on the fairways gain. And as you saw, putting shows up over and over, as it always does. So I do want to kind of see the guys that have tended to putt well, especially on Bermuda. You got the scrambling, the birdies. Oh, I guess I did leave the par 4s in. I thought I took that out. You got the par 3s, the procs of the pins, and then the par 5s. I kind of changed that from last year to specifically, there's 3 of them at this 550 to 600 to see how guys do. And funny enough, and this is over the last 24 rounds, no filters turned on. So this is just looking at the last 6 tournaments they played, or 24 rounds of golf. Who's been doing this very well? Emiliano Grillo, which he has been playing good golf. Really turned around over the summer and has had a couple opportunities. You have Scott Stallings, who's just I've been throwing money at that guy all 2022 and waiting for him to win. So I put a few bucks on him again. Brendan Steele, who's been, a model stat darling, but just has not been transferring over to actually doing something in a tournament. But we'll talk about betting when I get on it. Mark Hubbard, some of that stats is still from the summer, where I mentioned he did well at the Barbasol and the Barracuda. You got Russ Henley, who's been an amazing ball striker. You're going to notice the putting is quite a bit low, but used to putt really well on Bermuda. So if that flips, he could definitely win this tournament. You got Jaha, probably a pretty good play at this cheap price here, who's same thing, pretty good ball striker. Not the greatest distance, but, can hit the irons really well. And if the putter goes, watch out. You got Trey Mullinax, who actually won what was that, the Barbasol? And so got his first one on tour, been playing really good golf. His putter finally popped. The ball striking is there, and he's got that elite distance. So this course makes sense. You already know we talked quite a bit about Sam Burns in here. If he, putts what he typically does, which is so funny that, it's just kind of an anomaly that twice that he's done well, he's actually lost strokes with the putter, but just the course must suit him. Justin Hadley could be an interesting play and bet for that price tag. You could see does very well with the putter and has, been ball striking not too bad for him. Stefan Jaeger, you got Michael, the Canadian Glitcher. You got Taylor Moore, Ben Griffin, Lee Hodges, and Colin Tarrant. Kind of rounds out your top 15 best players. Just looking at the last 6 tournaments they played under my model, which is heavily on the ball striking side. All right, now we go talk about horses for courses. This is the guys who've had done very well at the CC of Jackson, Country Club of Jackson, that they'll be playing at here for the Chicken Open. If you look at against my model, just at this course, and you're going to notice everybody has kind of a different range of how many times they played here, which makes sense. I already mentioned Lucas Glover. If he putts, watch out, because this is a course that does kind of fit him. Of course, his last one was at John Deere where we hit him. I don't know, I think it was 80 to 1, 100 to 1. I don't remember the odds now. It was a little while ago, a couple of years back now. But I like that $6,800 price tag from a DFS side. You got Sammy Burns, of course, who's, I think he's had, well, we'll see. There's another thing I'll pull up here in just a second, but a win and a third, I think I mentioned. You got the McGirt, you got Streelman, Stewart Cink. Kind of fits this model of, the Silverado where he won the Fortinet. Wait, Fortinet? Safeway? Yeah. You got Norlander, which we'll talk about him. I actually put a little bit down on the betting side. MJ Defoe, which I believe got his card back, is why he's shown up and played here once before, but that's only 4 rounds of data. You got another Corn Ferry grad. You got Keegan, who I think is really good. Munoz, past champion. Keegan had a chance to win this thing. I believe it was the year of Garcia. You got Nick Taylor popping up again. JT Poston, recent win at the John Deere. You got Griot, still looking for that next win since his rookie season. You got my buddy Brian Stewart out of Central Michigan. And there's Scott Stallings. So guys that have done very well here. And then there's a different way to kind of look at this. That's looking against my model. This is looking at the last 5 years at this tournament. Who's gained the most strokes total. So that's everything encompassing, from putting, everything. And funny enough, Denny McCarthy comes out number 1. He's got a 17th, a 6th, and 18th, a 7th. So he's had a lot of success here. There's Burns, as I mentioned, with a 1st and a T3rd. You got JT Poston with a couple nice finishes, a 3rd and a T11. Streelman, good showing. Trying to see anybody else. CT Pan, back-to-back. That's kind of interesting. We didn't really look into that. There's Norlander, also mentioned, if you want to bet him top 5 or top 10. Top 5, he's 20 to 1. Top 10, I believe he's 10 to 1. So something to think about from a betting side. There's my buddy Malnati, who, and I just, it was such a putting expose that guy put on that year that whenever I think of him at this course, it just sticks in my mind. You got a Ryan Armour, who I had totally forgot that he won this back in 2018. So again, that would actually kind of go against the grain of really good ball strikers win. He fits into that kind of plotter camp. And then Stewart Cink with a T12 and a T28 coming back here. So gives you, again, some more thoughts for horses for courses at this place. All right, so some of the things that I'm looking at when it comes to the modeling side, the number one would be best ball strikers in the field. And I already kind of mentioned Brendan Steele is just still falling under. This is looking at the past 36 rounds against just ball striking, no filters turned on. You got my buddy Luke List, who we'll talk about again. Just did not do what I was hoping at the Fortinet. You got my buddy Russ Henley, who I chased all 2022. Thought we were going to get him at the Sony, lost in that playoff, and then just kept chasing it. You got Davis Riley, the local kid, grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and played at Alabama. So we'll talk about him. You got Griot, Adam Long, who looked good last week, at least as a play, but did not make the cut. You got my buddy, the Smother Man, who was just a good ball striker. Actually had a pretty decent showing at the Fortinet, I believe. I think he ended up top 10, top 15, something like that. Ches Reavie, I mentioned he won the Barbasol. I think it's right. Nope, the Barracuda. I always get those two confused because they're both alternate tournaments. But Ches Reavie has had a win recently. Really good iron player. You can see the putter is what can cause him some issues, and he does not hit it long, but he does hit it accurate. You got the Bomber Molinex, you got Stefan Jaeger, Hodges, Buckley, Munoz, past winner, Thompson, Davis Thompson, and you got Neesmith and Glover. So funny enough, I wasn't even looking at Neesmith, but I think I was on him last week, and I don't remember if he made the cut or not. It was kind of a letdown. All right, so who's the guys that we saw that you can definitely get there with just putting at this course? Well, not just, but you if you gain 10 strokes with the putter, you can not do some other things very well and still end up in the top 5. And Brendan Todd still, if you look at the past 36 rounds, putting on Bermuda, he still owns that. Chesson Hadley, Bermuda Burns, even though, funny enough, I told you the last couple times he's played here, has not done so well with the putter, but everything else was enough to win. You got Denny McCarthy, of course, he is just elite with the putter, and sometimes when the ball striking clicks, away he goes. He actually has got a little more distance recently off the tee. At least the last tournament I watched, I was kind of shocked to see where he was on some of his drives. You got Seb Straka, who won the Honda, which was on Bermuda. You got Ben Taylor, Adam Long, Seabez, who just played in the President's Cup and typically gets it done with the putter, as we all know. You got my buddy Richie Wawrinski in the field, which I don't know I guess he played at the Fortinet, which has done well putting on Bermuda. So he should be like 400 or 500 to 1. I have not bet him yet this year in the fall swing season, but I was chasing that last year, and I don't know if I want to go back. Thomas Detry, I believe, had a decent showing at the Fortinet. Scott Stallings. Andrew Putnam makes sense. Not a bad play. He had a pretty good show at the Fortinet. My buddy Wyndham Clark, who typically does well, as you see, driving distance. But funny enough, putting well on Bermuda. I knew that he has had some good splits on POA, but also showing up on Bermuda, and you can just see the irons are trash. You got our Canadian Adam Hadwin, which I believe this is his first event of the year. Kind of makes sense from a course perspective for him. Brandon Wu, and then Vincent Whaley, showing that he's got some distance and putts on Bermuda well. All right, so the other thing, if and why I do this is sometimes you can put teams together in DFS under, hey, I'm going to put a putting squad together. I'm going to put a ball striking squad together. I'm going to put a bomber squad together. That's why you got these. You can freeze it and, reference it. But if you're curious who's hitting it the farthest and hitting the fairway, that's these guys, top 15. And this is what I was talking about. I split it up for you where we're going to put a little more weight on driving distance over fairways gained. And when you do that, you got Brendan Steele, Sink, Bradley, Smotherman, Gary Woodland showed up a little bit, Griot, Riley, Scott Harrington, which I swear I made a joke about him at the Fortinet, and he actually ended up, if you played him, was a good play. I don't know where he ended up total off the top of my head, but I think, like top 20, and I think he was like bare men price. You got Nick Hardy, Alex Smalley, who that's what our Wyndham guy, who typically putts pretty good. You got Brent Grant. There's my buddy Luke List, who cannot putt to save his life. Garrick Hago is still coming in at like 500 to 1 from a betting perspective. I don't even think he made the cut, but again, throw a couple bucks on it. The guy he won at the Palmetto, which I believe that was Bermuda. And of course, the Canary Islands guys, 2 wins there on the European Tour. Hayden Buckley, Davis Thompson, and what is he, from Texas? Austin Eckroat, who came off to college in the Corn Ferry. That is your bombers with fairways. All right, so I always tell you guys, I give you this preference about the comparable courses. I think there's sometimes that they make a lot of sense, and you should reference this list. And then there's sometimes that I think it's kind of I don't think there's really anything huge there, but I still always do it. I'm curious, either way, and give that information to you guys. But I would rate this one as I wouldn't, put a whole lot of stock in the comparable course thing. But Valero, where they play TPC San Antonio, the AT&T Oaks course, that's your best comparable course. Funny enough, when I was looking into this, it's always been Bermuda Greens, but for some reason it was showing up POA for the last time they pay it. And I think what happened was they put POA trivials down on top, but it is a Bermuda Green. But everything else, the way this course plays, there's really no water on the Valero, but it's tree lined. It's a par 72, 7,400 plus yards. Great fit. The Houston Open. Little more if you look at the Golf Club of Houston, where it used to be played last couple of years, been Memorial Park, but still, it's a good comp course. You got the API at Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer, same thing, bomber course. You need to have some length. And you got the Bermuda, you got some trees, you got some water. I threw in the Zurich Classic now. Yes, I know it's a team event, but then that was back like 2016, I think is when it cut over to a team event. But it is in TPC, Louisiana, which kind of the same area, has a lot of similar characteristics. So I put it in there. You can also think about the guys who've done well there in the team event. The Fortinet that you just played, actually, that's Poa Greens, but I think the way the course plays, I believe that was a par 71 though, but pretty long in distance. And then you got the Rocket Mortgage, same thing. I think a par 71 off top of my head, and that is like a bent Poa Greens, but same thing, kind of old traditional woodline course. So again, I'm not putting a ton of stock in this, but if you want to look at the guys who've done well, and of course I'm including the course they're going to be playing at the CC of Jackson, put all that in, and the guys that ranked out number one was Keegan Bradley, which that makes sense to me. You got Woodland Fratelli, which that is an interesting play. And I did not look from a betting side, but he did not have a good showing at the Fortinet, if I remember right, but does have that length off the tee. And last one, I think, was the John Deere, and that would be bent greens. Benoit, I'll just tell you right now. Well, we'll wait for it. I'll hold that for you for a second. But interesting. Streelman, you got Ryan Moore, again, kind of a plotter, like that Brian Armour, whatever it is. MJ Defoe, I don't know why this guy keeps showing up. He must have like one good showing, but I'm not too worried about him. You got Griot, Chris Kirk, English, Nicholas Lindheim, which this guy's been around forever, and I think he just came off the Corn Ferry, so that graduating 25. You got Munoz, Sink, Seabez, and Party Marty Laird, who, if he could putt, could win a lot more tournaments. I think the last one he won was the Shriners, which I believe is coming up here shortly. Maybe the next tournament. I don't even know. I haven't looked out that far. All right, let's go over my betting card, and it's pretty slim. As you guys know, that I also do play quite a bit of DFS football. And right now, I'm still kind of focused. I'm going to be doing the shows. I'm still going to be betting on golf and doing the whole golf thing. But I take the swing season as kind of where I put a bit of focus on football. And some people have asked me, do I do any analysis or have a show? I just said, you know what? I'm no smarter than the guys that are out there by far that do football. It is not my there's a reason, like I said, why they call me the golf guru, or why I dub myself that, I guess, and not the football guru. So with all that said, I am making the rare bet on Sammy Burns. I look at this field, and what I've just seen him play at the President's Cup, he is, I think, above the field. I look at it, maybe not as bad, but John Rahm at the Mexico Open last year, where I think we were getting him, I don't even know what the odds were, 3-1, 5-1. So 11-1, I'm going to take it, because I think that's going to get knocked down to like 7, 6-1 by the time it's all said and done. We'll see. I'm going to stay on my buddy Griot at 40-1. I got a bet on him. Davis Riley, I don't think he's been playing that good at golf compared to what we've seen, but he has showed up at the courses that I like. He is local. He does have the skill set. So I'm going to put a bet on him, 40-1. Keegan, makes total sense. If he putts, watch out. Brendan Steele, this is just chasing. Great form, terrible putter. We'll see if that happens. Luke List, again, 130-1 for what he brings from a talent, from a ball striker. It's just, can he just find that hot putter once again? I mean, again, he did it at Torrey Pines to win the Farmers. That was the whole theory on last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at the Fortinet, but it did not come to fruition. But my favorite bet, if you're going to make one bet, and I tell you guys this all the time, I think 2 weeks ago, it was Luke List. That did not work out. But the bet that I would make right now is Benoit. The guy, had a good chance at one time of actually winning the Fortinet. And he is an elite ball striker, always has been. It's the putter that typically get him in trouble. You can see that right here. Now, do not look at these stats. These are older stats, right? We don't have all the Corn Ferry stuff, but that guy has been playing really good golf, and he can go low, as you saw. So, long story short, my heavy bet that I'm betting is the 80-1 on Benoit. Now, it makes too much sense, right? I mean, he's actually had a third place here a couple of years ago, and he just had a good showing, and he'll probably come out and miss the cut here. But everything that we see and everything that I know about Benoit is that he has a good chance that he could win this thing. So for 80-1, that is where I'm most of my money is going from a betting side. Okay, what I'm going to do now is go jump over and go through the picks with you guys. I'm going to kind of focus on just the top 20 guys that I'm looking at. I'm not going to go through the whole field, this show doesn't go over an hour, and then get you guys out of here. So let's go jump over to Fantasy National and dive into the players. Okay, I've jumped over into fantasynational.com, and always, if you are doing any analysis, putting any kind of money on golf, I highly recommend this tool. It is the one that I use, and it's the best out there that I've seen. So with that plug, let's move on. We're going to be focusing on DraftKings pricing. You could also, of course, use these picks I'm looking at this from a large tournament GPP play. You could also use them in cash game, but just the 22 guys that I think are the best in the pricing levels that they're at. So, of course, FanDuel, Yahoo, whatever platform you use. And you're going to notice here that I've already done some pre-analysis used in comparable courses, but what I'm looking at here is all courses. So this is the last 24 rounds these guys have played of golf, or also the last 6 tournaments they played in. You'll see pricing here, projected ownership as of Tuesday afternoon, and you're going to see I've created a mini model, and I've weighted this so you can see here real quick. Ball striking at 34, off the tee at 22, 24, 10, and 10. So heavy weighted on the top 3 categories and less on putting and that proximity from 125 to 150. Also, what you can see is the birdie gauge here. So over the last 24 rounds, how many birdies have they been making? And they are going to need to go low and make birdies here. So you're going to want this at least green, hopefully on the way up. And you can also see over here the last 5 tournaments they played in, not including the President's Cup, of course. And then you got tournament history here at the Chicken Open at Sanderson Farms. Okay, with all that said, you've got 4 guys at the $10,000 range that we have to make a decision on. And the 2 that I like best, of course, a little bit on brand, would be Sammy Burns, Russ Henley. It's kind of hard for me to pick a Sahith Theegala or a JT Poston at this price tag. Knowing that JT Poston got his second win at the John Deere, also past winner at the Wyndham. But let's see what his last. So not a bad tournament history here. He missed a cut last year, but he had a third in 2021. And then he had Sahith, which pretty much felt like kind of his main breakout tournament after the Corn Ferry. Even though he played here in 2021, missed a cut, he had a T8. And I think he even led the tournament, if I remember right, Friday, Saturday. But of course, you got Sam Burns, past champion. He's won the Valspar back-to-back. And the guy, for me, this is a perfect course fit. Now, yes, he just played the President's Cup, so you could have the narrative of, hey, maybe he's a little tired, all that kind of stuff. I get it, but I bet Sam Burns, I mentioned earlier in the show, 11-1, and I believe those odds are still holding, which I think are pretty good. And also, I did not bet Russ Henley, even though I chased that forever. I like him here, but his putter, let's go take a look at that real quick. So we know Sam Burns is good on Bermuda. He's got everything. I don't think I need to dive into the details for you guys to sell you on Sam Burns. Now you'll see over, I think this is a rolling 12-month average, that the best surface Russ in his past was on Bermuda, gained about 0.33 against the field. So you can just say a half stroke on the field. What he does very elite, of course, is he does hit fairways, awesome with the irons, one of the better iron players on tour. But the putter has just been really bad. And that's not the way it's always been. But you can see here was this last 7 tournaments in a row. He's lost strokes with the putter, lost 5 at the BMW, or you could have probably actually done a lot better than that 35th. But the last time he gained was on Bermuda, gained 2.3. The Genesis is POA. The Phoenix Open is Bermuda. And then at the Sony, where he had that chance to win and got knocked out in the playoff by Hideki, he gained almost 6 strokes with the putter. Now, what I also note, even like a John Rahm, is that he hits his irons pretty close. So if he's missing a lot of 5-8 footers, then it's really going to hurt him on this putting stroking approach. So the good news is typically he is going to get the ball pretty close to the irons. If the putter even is neutral, I believe he could be a top 5 finisher here. So that's the 2 I'm going with. Sahith, you can see off the tee, as we're typically, I've always stated that if he gets some issues with the lefts, he can get some hooks going. Also not that great on the proximity from 125 to 150. It shows up about 20% of the time when you're hitting your pro shots. Okay, so that's the 2 guys I'm going with up top. The next, you got the 9,000 range. And you're going to notice I have quite a few in the 9,000 range, so don't get too nervous. I also have a ton in the 7,000 range, and I don't know if I have any in the 8, but so that's kind of how this is working out for me. Denny McCarthy, you can see from a ball striking, has not done a whole ton of a lot. I mean, he's had a T20, a T28, a T25, so he's been playing decent golf. A lot of it's done with the putter. Of course, he's elite there. But you can see over and over, he's top 10, top 20 at this tournament the last 4 years. So I'm a little bit of horses for courses here. It's a high price tag for Denny McCarthy, but from a GPP play, projected ownership at that price tag is a little bit lower. It's someone that I'll try to build some lineups with. Of course, Sebastian Munoz kind of fits right into my brand. I've got my guys that are ball strikers that if the putter pops, away they go. But again, at 9,700, quite pricey for Sebastian Munoz, but this field is very, very weak. And his projected ownership is pretty low. So, if you ask me if I had to make a decision between the two, I will go with Sebastian Munoz every time. Of course, I told you I don't know if he led, but he was right up there. I think he led the President's Cup team international with points gained. And the guy like a Lucas Glover or a Griot, even a bit like what Russ Henley's becoming, is just super elite tee to green. And it's just that putter pops. Watch out for maybe possibly a nice top 5 or another win. But it's the only win he has on tour. We could take a quick look into Sebastian. So he's got a bit of pop in the bat, 304 yards on average. And you can see, he is positive and everything but POA. We guess past Palm is his best surface, but which is I call it the cousin to the Bermuda. You can see off the tee and approach is usually where he does his damage, but the putter is not bad either. Around the green is where he gets in a little bit of trouble. All right, moving along. Taylor Montgomery I picked last week. The guy has, been playing really good golf. You can see what he's done in the Corn Ferry and then followed up on the Fortinet. Now, the problem is that if you got to watch a bit of it, he sprayed the ball all over the place and the putter just went en fuego. So let's go take a look at Taylor Montgomery. Mentioned he's got the distance, so I really like the distance for there. I feel like you can get more trouble here with a driver than you can at Silverado. So we can see he gained over 11 strokes with the putter. I told you off the tee he was struggling. I know this because I bet him on Showdown. I followed him on ShotLink on the PGA app quite heavily, and every time I looked, the guy was getting out of some trees. Now, can he do that again? Sure. I don't think he's going to gain almost 12 strokes with the putter. So for 9,600, I'm going to pass. I'm not betting him. So this could all come back to haunt me. Maybe he gets a win. Maybe he wins this tournament. But I've got some other guys that I'd rather play at that price tag. So I'm out on Taylor Montgomery. Kind of shocked his ownership is at 13% at least projected right now. Scott Stallings, this is one of those plays where I've been playing him all year, been chasing him, betting him. I think he's 35, 40 to 1. I've already bet him. You can see everything's been a lead here. Typically, it just seems like on Sundays is where he can kind of have his fall apart a little bit. You can see pretty good course history here. And so I'm going to stay with Scott Stallings. I'll click on him for you if you want to just see some quick details. Again, it's got length. Not as accurate as some of the other guys I've been talking about. See, the putters can be causing issues, but I do believe, over his last 20 rounds, or tournaments, actually, he has been gaining with the putter. See, the last time he had a nice big gain, so that's on bent. The BMW that they just played, that was actually bent. Let me click on this real quick. I want to see. So that's POA. Which Byron Nelson was this? That's bent. We do that again real fast for you. All right, Valspar. That was pretty recent. He gained 8 strokes on Bermuda. So I was just curious. Last time he had a good putting out on Bermuda. Keegan Bradley, not much to say here, right? I mean, the guy had a chance to win here a couple of years back. I actually watched quite a bit of that tournament. I believe that was what Sergio Garcia won that year. Very similar, Keegan and Garcia. Very elite, have length off the tee, very accurate. Just great ball strikers. Typically, it's the putter that kind of bites them in the ass. And let me go look real quick. We can just look at some information deeper for Keegan. So I mentioned on average gains over about 310, pretty accurate off the tee. You can see the putters where his problems lie, but he has started putting much better Again, not too far off from what we just saw with Scott Stallings. Last 20 tournaments, he has been positive. A little bit of dip here over the last 2 tournaments. The FedEx St. Jude, that would also be what TPC Southwind. That would be Bermuda. He went en fuego at that Wells Fargo, which was that PT or TPC uh, Potomac, Avondale Farms. I mess that up every time, but that was actually bent. It was not at Quail Hollow, which is Bermuda, which we just saw at the President's Cup. But I'm a fan of Keegan, and I think this is a great fit for him. Seabass, no thank you. He does one thing very elite, and like I said, you could create a lineup with the elite putters, which would include like a Denny McCarthy and a Seabass. I can understand that. I think they're very similar plays. So if you want to save a few bucks, you could plug in Seabass instead of Denny McCarthy. Emilio Grillo, put him right in that amazing ball striker, usually cannot putt, but you can see over the last 24 rounds of golf, 6 tournaments, he has been gaining with the putter. So you put that all together, and I bet Grillo, I believe it was 40-1 off the top of my head. But you can see the guy's been playing good golf. He struggled early on in the season, but has picked it up in the summer. And he's kind of consistently gotten these, T30-ish. So hopefully he improves on that. That will be all how the putter goes. But yeah, I'm a fan. Davis Riley, for a moment there, I was thinking about betting him. He is local. Well, actually, I did have a bet on him. I just pulled it off. And funny enough, I got him at 41. I think his odds have actually dropped to like 30-1 or 35. So, do with that what you may. But I think I'm going to pass. I pulled the bet, reallocated the funds elsewhere. And I think I'm going to pass on both sides. Just the more I kind of dove into him, he's played here twice, missed cuts. The comp courses that he's played, he has not done well at. I want to think, though, maybe did he have a chance to win Valspar? So I might take that back. Okay, so he had a chance to win the Valspar this year. So, but the rest of it was not good, and he hasn't been in really that great a form. Had a pretty good showing at the Wyndham. So 9,000, like I said, I pulled the bet, and I'm going to pass from a DFS. Substruck actually out of nowhere was probably the shocker for me is what he did in the FedEx Cup. Was it just in horrific form after his win at the Honda, and then something clicked. So you can see it here. He won the Honda, then he miscut the next week. Not too bad here. Then miscut Wells Fargo, barely made the cuts, and then ended up almost dead last here, and then just went on this run of miscuts, and then out of nowhere gets to the FedEx and gets to the FedEx Cup playoffs and just lights it up. So who knows? You can see everything looks pretty bad except for that, and he's played her 4 times and missed cut every time. So almost 9,000 price tag. I'm gonna pass on Sep, but I wanted to show you that he had a really nice FedEx Cup. He won on Bermuda, the Honda. You could make some correlations from the PGA National, but it's a shorter track, shorter par, more water involved. So I'm going to pass. But, like I said, you can make an argument, especially if you go off what he did at the FedEx Cup. Thomas Detry, I don't play a lot of them. Like I said, I mean, the most golf I've ever watched this guy play where he came off the European Tour. I believe he's a Swede. I think he played in the Olympics. I watched quite a bit of him there. And yeah, I have no interest, and maybe, that could come back to haunt me, but not at 9,000. Adam Hadwin, the Canadian, actually, I think has a pretty decent course history here, but just doesn't do a lot of things. Usually, funny enough, I always think of Adam Hadwin as a good putter, but lately that's kind of failed him. So I'm out there. Actually interested in Harris English. He had a nice showing at the Fortinet. I've been watching Harris for the last couple of years. I think he's elite ball striker and can get super hot on Bermuda greens. Should show that here. His best is bent, but I mean, you can see even Bermuda, good putter, especially inside that 10-foot range. You got that, I don't know, pulled muscle or pulled tissue off the hip. And his last one was at the Travelers in that playoff against Kramer Hickok. And then, had some nice. And then I believe it was when it clicked over into 2022. He was hurting and tried to play through it, and then finally just, had to take time, get healed, came back, had some miscuts, and then had that night. So if Harris is back to even close, I think from a betting side, I think he's 50-1. It's kind of interesting. And also, 8,600, I would guess his ownership would be pretty low. So it's someone I'm going to plug in. You got Taylor Moore, who's been playing pretty steady golf. I like, it seems like he does well. He'll have that one or two spike rounds. Last best showing was, he had the Wyndham, the Rocket Mortgage. See, he makes a lot of birdies. So again, from a showdown play, I like him. And someone interested, I'll play in GPP. Seamus Power, I was all over him early last year, and then his game just kind of, I don't know, he started to fizzle. Like he really showed. What he won, the Barbasol or the Barracuda? Let's go see here. So he won the Barbasol, and then he had this nice little run here. I don't know if you want to call that the end of fall season, swing season. Had a nice kickoff to the year, and then all of a sudden just started, miscuts. Not a bad show at the U.S. Open. Almost, funny enough, I like to play him in bad weather. I know he's, a European in nature, but funny enough, he's got a high ball flight, and so it doesn't make a lot of ton of sense because typically you're thinking of very windy conditions, and I believe he's, Ireland, right? I mean, the saying is what he took Rory McIlroy's scholarship to, I don't know, Middle Tennessee or someone like that. Some place like that, and he didn't take it. Rory decided to go pro, and he took it from there. Trey Mullinax, no issues at all. I mean, the guy's been playing good golf. Also, he got his first win. That would have been the Barbasol. Also, funny enough, got the length. Does everything pretty well. So just didn't make my cut. I actually Chris Kirk, when I started to go through all the comparable courses, even he had a T2 back here. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of a differentiator play. Again, with the perspective of a GPP, kind of interested in. And then you got Gary Woodland, who I looked at long and hard. And if you remember correctly, in the early start of 2022, both on the Florida swing, we all were waiting for him to get that win, right? He had the fifth at Honda and Arnold Palmer. I think he had an issue in the sand bunker towards the 18th. I think that was at the Honda. Maybe it was Arnold Palmer. I don't remember now. But of course, the conditions were very brutal and very firm greens and firm everything. I was not impressed, honestly, of what they were doing at the Bay Hill with the course. But neither here or there. You see, he had this really nice stretch, and it looked like, watch out, Woodland was ready for a breakthrough win. And then he kind of went back to just blah, had a good showing at the Open, but just a lot of miscuts. So it doesn't mean, I mean, his game could definitely fit here. A lot of it's, comes down to the putter where he has his issues. He's only played here once last year, missed a cut, so I'm out. Wyndham Clark, I always say I'm a week or 2 weeks late, my picks. It wouldn't shock me if Wyndham Clark comes out and has a good outing. His irons are just so bad. But he's also been putting pretty well on Bermuda. I've always thought of him as a really good POA putter, or at least that's where he seems like he's popped. Not a bad recent form, and kind of a mixed bag, a 17th, couple miscuts. So I don't know. You can do what you want with that. And somehow I ended up kind of going over all these guys. So I'm going to pick this up and just start going over the guys that I'm interested in because this is going to get too long. Brendan Steele, funny enough, in my model ranking, now you can see the putter is not even like listing on here. He's so bad. But you can see kind of like hit or miss. But he's had a decent course history here. T17 here last year. And we'll go take a quick look at Brendan Steele. And you'll just notice his putter is just brutal. If he doesn't lose 5 or 6 strokes, if he can lose a stroke or even somehow break neutral, but I mean, you just scroll down, it's pretty bad with the putter. But he has just been elite with off the tee and ball striking. So I've been waiting, as probably a lot of us, for that to turn. I bet him again. I think 65-1 was the number, and he's at 7,900. So, yep, I'm going to jump on that. Aaron Rye, no thank you. No issues. Andrew Putnam had a pretty good showing. Well, for a bit he did. I guess it wasn't that great at the end. All right, I'm going to fly through the rest of these. Brendan Todd could be interesting play. He keeps it in play. Great putter on Bermuda. So I have no issues if you want to plug him in. And I'm just going to go down to Benoit. So I already talked about this guy from a betting perspective. He is my favorite bet. Probably come and just blow up in my face, but that's where I got my heaviest bet is on Benoit. He's had a showing here where he almost won in 2020. Been playing really good golf. I really liked what I saw at the Fortinet. The putter's been working. And let's just go click on him real fast. So we don't have a lot, right? He came out the Corn Ferry to earn his card back. But I got to watch a lot of Benoit over my past years. And I always thought he was an elite golfer. It was kind of, he fit in that kind of griot, just amazing ball striker, just, the putter. But, to see what he did with that putter on what would they play? I think it was Poa Greens. I don't know. I'm hoping he can do it again. You guys all know Adam Svensson. I like him. I'm just not picking him this week. There's no issues. He had a good showing at the Fortinet. I like him for a showdown. So if you want to plug a guy in to get you, he could pop that round where he gets 5 or 6 under. That's where I would play him. Kevin Streelman, kind of like I think I mentioned yesterday, earlier in the show. I actually taped the intro of this yesterday. He's just been a lead here. I think he leads in total strokes gained, so I'm on that. Mark Hubbard, all around pretty decent game. Been playing pretty well. Had a really nice summer. Not the best course history, but I'm going to play some Mark Hubbard. Bobby Shelton, that's, you can't really look at a lot of that. That's old data. He earned his card back. Luke List, sucker right here. But the guy's just a elite ball striker, so that I bet him again at 130, and I noticed his odds dropped, I think 80 to 1. So there must have been a lot of money went on Luke List at that 130. I don't know if someone else touted him. Maybe Pat Mayo put a bet on him and away it went. But you can see here he had a T2 here, T17. His game fits. It's just the putter's been so bad. So if the putter actually just, again, goes neutral, away we go. Actually, that money that I took off of Davis Riley, I put it on Henrik Norlander. If you're interested, he's had that back T4s here. He's a good ball striker, typically bad putter, but you can see he's not been doing anything very well. Looks like he actually had to go down to Corn Ferry to get his status, so didn't even know that. All right, gonna flip through none of these guys. Stefan Jaeger is back and forth. I'm picking him, so I don't have no problem with that play. Ches Reavie, if you're putting together a plotter squad, put him in it with Brennan Todd, and you might be pretty happy. Stuart Sink, I think I also bet him. It was a late bet. And the guy, you can see he's got a good course history here, and everything from a comparable course makes total sense that he should do well here. Again, he's got length. He's good with the long irons. He's just a good ball striker. You can see he's positive over the last 12 months on Bermuda, but that's what's been going on lately is his putter has been just brutal. Let's go look at his wins. So RBC Heritage, which wasn't too long ago, he gained 2.3 on Bermuda. The Fortinet, which would have been also the Safeway when he won it, that's POA. This is way back, the RBC Heritage, where he gained a bunch on Bermuda. Bay Hill, I mean, some of this stuff's so old, it's not worth it. But anyways, you can put him in that camp, almost as Sergio Garcia past winner, Sebastian Munoz, Cameron Champ. If you start looking at the model of the guys that have won here, that's what I'm going on. I mean, you can put Neesmith kind of in that category too. Patrick Rogers, no thank you. Party Marty, right there too. Terrible putter, good ball striker. And Lee Hodges, probably a little better game. He's a little newer to us. Played her once at a T45. I like Lee Hodges, especially for that price tag. Same with Hayden Buckley. Give me all the Corn Ferry guys from last year. Pretty decent players. He had a T4 here. So again, when you're down this range, you're just looking for anything that, kind of pops. Let's go click on these guys for you. 300, very accurate. See here. The Rocket would be bent. 3M Open, I believe, is bent off the top of my head. Travelers, was that Connecticut? POA. Anyways, so I like those guys. Both of them. Recommend. Rory Sabatini, didn't even recognize he was playing in this. Sometimes I'll sneak him in there. I told you guys about Pierre Maldonado. I watched that guy just going for Fuego. I think he shot like a 61, 62 here and made a putt from, if he hit the green, he was making the ball putt it. So again, someone that's sneaky from a betting side. He's had a decent course history here. Going to kind of fly. Lucas Glover, put him right in the Griot camp. Just elite ball striker. You can see a little while ago, but he had a T5, T14. Recently a T58. A couple of miscuts there. But I'm just going with the ball strikers. It's a long course, par 72. These greens are pretty simple, pretty large. And then Jaha, same thing. I do not usually pick Jaha, but you can see he's been playing pretty good golf. Had that T2 at the Wyndham. I mean, he had a withdrawal. I have no clue what that was about. I'm guessing, what was that at the FedEx? Did they have a rain stop? He probably was just playing so bad after round one. But you can see, kind of a mixed bag. So I like Jaha, again, for a GPP play. Chesson Hadley, I actually also put a few bucks on him from a betting side. He showed up here at a second place in 2018. Again, I'm guessing a lot of that was done with a putter. He doesn't really Again, he would fit more in the putting squad than he would into a ball striking squad. You can see off the tee is pretty horrific. Irons not been bad, but the putter is typically where he does his damage. The last time if I think of Chesson Hadley, I think about when he lost at Palmetto. I think he had like a 3 or 4 stroke lead and just puked, yeah, all over on Sunday, and that's when Garrick Higo, funny enough, who I bet, it was like what, a second tournament on PGA Tour, something like that, ended up winning. So I was happy, but I felt terrible for Chesson Hadley. Austin Smotherman, I'm going back to him, guys. 6,800. Had a nice show at the Fortinet. Great ball striker. The putter kind of falls again. I'm just right in my camp of ball strikers, no putters. And I did skip right by Patty Kazire. I'm off my Brokeback. I have finally quit him. I have not bet him, and I'm not playing him in any fantasy. So we'll see if that comes back to haunt me. And I think that's it. So that's my 22 guys. Typically, I give you 20. I know typically I do this a little different where I kind of, summarize all these for you. But for the fall swing season, I just don't have the time. I'm going to probably get back into that mode. You'll see a little more higher production value starting, when we get to, I guess it would be the Century tournaments. But I am going to still provide the content for you guys to get you through the swing season. All right, we'll go jump back over and let's wrap this thing up. Okay, well, that is it. Thank you for checking me out for the Sanderson Farms, aka the Chicken Open. I appreciate you guys tuning in again for the swing season. I know everybody's mind's a little bit on the football, but I still like betting on golf. It's my favorite thing to bet on, and I still watch it. So even during the football season. So I'm going to keep producing for you guys. If you do me the honor, if you click that like button, share this with anybody else that for some odd reason right now they decided that they want to start also getting into DFS golf or betting on it. And if you've not subscribed and you have been watching, if you do me the honor, please subscribe. The subscribe base is what keeps me doing this. Your guys' feedback, I greatly appreciate that. And if you follow me on Twitter, I do keep an eye on withdrawals and anything from the PGA Tour media that I see. Anything, I will tweet it out. Also, just some random anecdotes I will put here and there. And with that said, I wish you guys all the luck at the Sanderson Farms. Enjoyed the tournament. Hopefully we get some cash in our pocket to put towards the Shriners, which will be up next weekend. And I'll do, again, one show that will have everything in there. All right, guys, all the best, and I will talk to you guys next weekend.